getting excited for week one against Moorhead. What's the state of the team as we go to week one? And I guess another young team, how do you corral those emotions of week one?
Sure. I think naturally, when you go into game one, from having 9 months where you haven't played an opponent, you have the lights and the hype and the jitters and all the things that come along with that. And you got to do a good job with just keeping the message and the tone and just the focus of making sure that you keep the guys at bay a little bit. And so we've talked about that as a staff, and that's a real thing. So you got to keep young guys just in the moment and making sure they're focused on simple things that we've talked about. But by and large, our camp has been fantastic, and guys have been extremely confident and aggressive in what we're doing. I think that's a little bit of a shift this year that we see, that guys are going to be a little bit less maybe timid or trying to figure out things or waiting on things, and I think they're going to be a little bit more of an attack mode that they have adopted. And so we got to work through just kind of these next couple of days of just working up to game time, and I think once we get there, guys will be ready to play.
Last time we spoke, you didn't have a starter yet with Duke or Riddle or
Yeah.
maybe even Theron Coffin and a couple other guys.
Hmm.
Where do we stand going into week one? Is that a game time decision for everyone else? Do you know? Or are you
Right.
willing to openly say who your starter
It's
is?
a great question. I think we have three very capable guys that can all do a little bit different things with taking snaps. And, we're just kind of working through some things right now with game plan and just kind of what they're capable of doing and what their statuses are right now. And so we really have not named one true guy. We've actually, gotten them all ready to go to where, when any of them are called on, they can be ready to go in there and perform well.
Coach, do you expect those three to see snaps on Thursday, all three of them? It's hard to play three quarterbacks in a
For
game
sure it is.
without a true starter.
Yeah.
Does week one kind of provide you that opportunity in that game like scenario to put them in and see how they?
Yeah, it might. If we go with one guy and he's kind of engineering things and, we don't have to go with anybody else, that'd be great, right? I think that would be ideal. Um, we'll have to see kind of what the situation calls for. I think, just making sure that we put our team in the right situations too, in terms of different scenarios and, where we're at D&D and just what we're capable of doing personnel wise. But yeah, I think they're all three very capable of getting reps. I wouldn't be surprised if they all three do, but I don't think we're trying to do that, right? We want to be able to find a guy that we feel really comfortable with and who's in a good flow and a good rhythm.
You talked about kind of the attitude shift of the team.
Hmm.
How has that changed over the progression of your three, camps of
Yeah.
your first year coming in and kind of establishing things, the second year kind of continuing that,
Yeah.
and now into this third year?
Yeah, I think it's been 3 years, and you can kind of see how each year is different, in my opinion. Um, First camp, the first year, you're just trying to really figure out a lot of things. You're trying to see where you are, and there's some things you don't know what you don't know. And um, year two is much better, much improved from that. And still, I think there were deficiencies in year two. And I think year three now has given us a great idea of kind of all the deficiencies and things that we need to do to get them very proficient. And I think guys have seen that. And I think that hunger and desire has kind of boiled within them. And, obviously getting the results on the field the last 2 years that we have has, been good for us to be able to, stir the pot, so to speak, within us. And so I just really think our guys are hungry to go out there and do something different and something better. And you can see and feel that just within the whole preparation that they put towards.
What kind of went into making this schedule this year? I mean, it looks really looks incredible. It looks kind of tough, but I feel like is that kind of part of how you set it up? I mean, you got the week one here with Minnesota State-Moorhead and St. Thomas at some point. The two games at Davenport. What kind of went into that whole process?
Yeah, I think sometimes you're just kind of at the mercy of Division II scheduling, right? And it's not always easy. With our conference, we have limited teams in terms of, you can't fill out a whole 11 or 10 game schedule with our conference. And so you got to find what works for the non-conference games. When is it appropriate to take the bye week? A lot of things go into it. And then, I think going back to, with Davenport, he and I both, Coach McEwen, we both had openings on that weekend. We both wanted to try to find a game that was a Division II opponent, something that was in region, and it just worked out to where we were both willing to do that, and we were able to, get it to where they can come to us for one of them, we can go to them for one of them, and I really like that matchup. I think it's going to be good for both of us, and I think the schedule is a really good one for this year. I think we've kind of transitioned to try to add some different teams, and I think it'll be neat to be able to play some new opponents, and it'll be good competition and great challenge for us.
It's been by the time kickoff at 1,069 days. I know you know the number. How much pressure is on this team? Not necessarily, they're not all responsible for it, but we all know that it has been addressed. How much pressure is on this team to perform on opening night on Thursday?
Yeah, I think the pressure right now is on ourselves, right, that we create, because I think guys in that room want to win a heck of a lot more than the guys on the outside, right? And so, sometimes the pressure from the outside, it doesn't matter, right? It really, at the end of the day, like, the only people that matter are those guys that are putting in the work and the messages that are talked about in that team room, in that locker room, and on that practice field. And we've got to stay focused on just what we want to accomplish ourselves. And so, I go back to our program is set up with, it's a process-oriented model. Like, we're not just only in this thing to win against Minnesota State-Moorhead. Like, that's not the only goal here this season. We want to make sure that a great process is established so that we can have a winning, sustainable tradition here as we go throughout the whole entire season and from this point forward. And so I think that's what our guys are focused on. That's what I'm trying to keep them focused on. And, the byproduct is that we'll go out there and we'll play well on Thursday night and be able to come home with a win.
You talked about that mentality of, not only do we just not want to perform well on opening night, we want to perform well the whole season. When you go into these types of games, is there some sort of mentality where we have to take it one play, one snap, one quarter at a time and just chip away on the other team, especially going into a game like this in your home opener?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of our objectives as a team that we want to accomplish every time we take the field is play your best this play, right? We talk about that from a standpoint of your focus. You can't worry about what happened before. You can't worry about what's to come. You got to really be in the moment. Every play has a life of its own, and you got to really do your job well for every single one of those plays. A lot of critical plays happen throughout the 4 quarters of a game. A lot of people remember maybe if the game comes down to a 4th and 1 late in the 4th quarter, oh, that's the play that made it. Or I don't really think that's the case. I think you got to play every play that, every play is critical. Every play is important, and you got to know that you got to take care of the first quarter before you can take care of the second, before you can take care of the third and the fourth, right? And so I think every play matters. Your focus, your dedication to making sure that every play is your best is what we're trying to strive for.
Coach, when you're on a short week like playing on a Thursday, only a few less days to prepare, do things change? Preparation for the team probably doesn't. You've scouted, you know what they're going to try to do, what you're going to try to stop. But as far as kind of the flow of getting your team ready through 4 days, does that change?
For sure. It's kind of frustrating as a coach probably to kind of think about what the flow is. And, we're sitting here on a Tuesday, but really we've been telling ourselves it's Thursday, right? So a normal Saturday game, you're thinking 2 days before a normal Thursday. And, it can be frustrating, but you got to be able to be flexible with it and adapt. And, our guys have done a great job. It's just probably more from a planning standpoint from the coaching staff. And, first game, you always run into a lot of things that are, hey, it's the first time around, whether you have new guys on staff and, getting guys used to a new routine or whatever it is. You just got to make sure you take time to organize all of that and talk through it and make sure you're on the same page. And, by the time Thursday night comes, I think everybody will be ready to go.
You've been around this game a long time. How tough is it not having really preseason games like the NFL does? And how do you stay mentally strong in the 4th quarter, your first game of the season and when you really know how well these guys are conditioned?
Yeah. Well, I think, having preseason games, I don't know if I could imagine that because, you deal with injuries already when you're in camp against yourselves. And so, um, you want them ready to go, and yet you got to ride that fine line of keeping guys healthy and keeping guys fresh. And, yeah, I think you got to do a great job in camp to be able to find enough live situations and yet make sure that you are getting their legs back and knowing what the timing of all that looks like. And so, yeah, I think this year's routine, we really pushed hard for the first couple weeks and then, tried to make sure that week 3 we were starting to taper and understand kind of how to polish and start to move towards some things to get ready for game week and that type of thing. And so, yeah, first game for everybody, you just kind of you kind of find out what you have and what you don't have and what you got to do, what you don't want to do. And so that'll be a test for really everybody.
Could that be an advantage to you guys with the offense that you're running against the defense? Because theoretically, they would probably be gassed running all over the field with your running attack.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept because we anticipate that Minnesota State-Moorhead will probably throw the ball predominantly, right, with their offense. And so it's going to be kind of a little bit of an extreme difference of, two offenses. But yeah, obviously we have to move the ball. We have to score points. We have to do what we need to do offensively. And then defensively, we need to minimize their opportunities and get off the field. And so if you do that, then both sides of the ball can work together and play complementary football.
How much does your offense set up your defense for success?
Yeah, it needs to, right? We need to move the ball. We need to score points and be able to feel like we're keeping our defense off the field and yet being rewarded for it so our defense can go out there and feel good about, trying to stop them and having an advantage, right? Yeah, playing great defense is, part of playing great offense. You got to be able to have a good offense that helps out the defense and, vice versa, right? I mean, we can't just give up a bunch of points and expect the offense to, outscore them either. So we got to both do our parts to help each other.
Dobert, Lukarainen, Jai Woods. Who else could we see in the backfield? For
Yeah,
your team?
those 3 for sure. Tucker Welch is looking really good. He's had a really great camp. And yeah, I think, you don't ever know how many you need to use, but I think, those 4 guys right there are going to be, very good for us. And we'll see kind of how it looks like on Thursday night.